Okay, we're gonna do a 3D acrylic flower over gel polish, which technically breaks rules, and we like to do that. So I'm gonna take a little buffer because the surface is shiny. I've cured my gel polish and my top coat. I'm just gonna buff a tiny bit where I know the flower is gonna cover. This is gonna help us adhere that acrylic to the smooth gel. If you just leave it totally shiny, you're gonna have a problem. I cleaned off the dust, and then what I'm gonna do is reach for my Protein Bond by Young Nails. This is amazing because it gives us a little bit of stick. It's gonna help that acrylic really adhere to the nail. So I'm just putting it through the middle where I know that flower is gonna touch. And let it set a little bit to get a tiny bit tacky. So I'm taking a brush. This is just a cheaper brush I found on Amazon. Happy to find a link for you. And normally I use a bigger one, but I'm gonna try this with you guys and see how it rolls. So I'm picking up acrylic with it. Oh, that was a little bit dry. Dipping it in my monomer, picking up a tiny ball of acrylic. And then what I'm gonna do is kind of press it out. And I'm hoping, or goal here, is to leave one side higher and pressed out, and then the other side thinner and kind of melting through so you see some pink. Now you'll notice I'm just barely pressing. I did get a little more monomer on my brush. Pressing it out so that we have that dimension. I kind of like this small brush. Plan on it not having much monomer in there, so it's going to be a little more dry. Here's an example. I'm going along, by the way, the outside, so I'm patting it out and it's kind of a dry powder. And then if I need to, I can jump in and grab a tiny bit more monomer on it. And you can see that helps melt out thinner and then thicker on the one side. So we're going to kind of spiral in as we go lay down the petals. I'm turning the brush and pressing the petals out. You want an uneven outside edge. If you have it a perfect circle, it won't look so much like a flower. It'll look more like a swirl. So you want kind of that ruffle. You're giving a ruffle to the flower. So these balls are probably like the size of like a little bit bigger than a pin head. Not the tiny pin print, but like the top of the head, a ball like that size. And then I'm gonna come in. Now, when I'm doing this, I'm gonna come up to the top because this is where I'm gonna kind of come in just to give me a little bit of a gauge of how big of a petal to put in between the two. Again, you'll see I'm letting it set a second, then I'm bringing in a little more liquid to melt out that lower or inner edge of each petal. And then I go make the outside edge less symmetrical. You can kind of see it coming together here. And this kind of ends up looking like a spring flower. It's a little bit rose-esque, but people tend to love it in the spring because it looks a little bit like a pansy. That's a good way to think of this. Putting that inside one so that they're connected here. And I chose pink because I'm going to have a contrast with the white. I have done this with colored acrylic. It works okay, but what you really need to make sure you have is a contrast of the color underneath. I've also done it where you pick up two colors. That's kind of a fun one where you dip your brush in the powder of, say you have white and pink, and you have like a light blue background. Dip it baby in the white, baby in the pink, and then lay it down. Gives a little dimension. But that's kind of a higher level skill, so I'm going to show you how to give dimension here at the end with something all of us have access to and super affordable. Notice how I'm starting to layer the petals over each other. I'm not afraid to let them touch each other. That's a really big key. And my outside circumference is filling the nail. Too often I see this where we start it and we realize we've made it too small. Again, pressing it out, giving it dimension, and it's higher on the outside edge and goes down flat and transitions to the actual gel polish on the inside edge of each petal. Turning my brush. Hopefully this is helping and making sense. My brush is really quite dry, so that's why I'm going back with just a little bit of liquid. And it's dry because it's so small, but I like it because it's stiff. That's what we're kind of after here. I can do this with my big full size 10 acrylic brush. It just takes a little bit more maneuvering because it takes more to keep it stiff and dry when I'm doing the shaping at the end. Okay, let's see where, now you're going to sit back and kind of look at where you need some petals. That ball dropped. It happens when you're working a little more dry. There we go. I'm going to give us the center here. And then go press it out so they're really layered. You start getting really cool dimension. I'm going to leave this matte after we're done, like glossy underneath with the gel polish, matte on top. That difference in texture really adds to the look and gives it a unique thing that not everybody will do for your clients. So now pricing for something like this, I would at least be in the $8 to $10 range add-on, because it is going to take some extra time and it is an added skill. Don't forget to pay yourself for these things. I felt like it needed a little bit of a layered petal out here on the outside edge, so I'm adding that. I've done this where I've added it like a little leaf. That can be really fun too. I'm just going to keep this to the flower for everybody this round, so everybody feels like they can do this. I know it's a little bit intimidating. Practice it on a practice stick like I am showing you on, or put it on yourself first and wear it. Now, anything you put on yourself, your clients will want to wear, so be prepared for that. Now let's see, I kind of like the ruffliness going on. That's a word, right? It is now. A little bit over here, it seemed a little lonely in the edge. And notice how this flower has filled the entire nail. So we don't have this weird little ding. Now, if you want to do it up in the corner, totally fine. Just know your intention when you start it. All right, let's see. We need some sort of something right here. And you can tell the more layers, the more petals you add, the more unique this look is, which is why we charge more for something like this. Just to cover everything, and hopefully you're adding a little extra time on to do something like this as well. Pushing it out. Now I'm going to do a center one, and so you see I lay it down and then I kind of pick it up smaller, kind of cut the ball in half. Well, I dropped it. We'll try again. I'll show you. So drop it and pick up less of it if you run it along the towel. There we go. Put it in the center. Now you can leave it like a little ball, which is totally cute, or you can go in with your point and push it out so it's like a little pinpoint in the middle dimension. Pretty dang cute, right? Super unique look. So now this looks really awesome. I totally like it like this. I'm going to show you an extra thing you can do to add extra dimension, and we're going to do it with something we all can get super cheap. So what I'm grabbing is a little bit of acrylic paint. These are like $1 a bottle, right? I'm going to grab the pink, super similar to the background, but a little bit darker. Just dipping my same brush in, patting it out on my tile because I want less of it. And then I'm going to grab a little bit of alcohol to dilute the acrylic paint. I know I'm super messing with your head right here. But what it does is it lets us have almost like a little bit of watercolor. Real words here, Hilary. So then you can go on, now angle it. I just want it on that lower edge in certain spots to give you extra dimension. So I'm really angling my brush. I'm only hitting on that inside edge, just where the acrylic kind of dips down is a good way to think of this. A little more paint with my alcohol. It's just cleansing alcohol. And what this is doing is really making our dimension pop of our flower. And this will dry on its own. The alcohol will evaporate and then it will dry really well. And you'll be all set. So notice that I'm just dabbing. I'm not even doing a ton. I love how that looks, the dimension. So give this a shot. I hope you love it. And subscribe to the channel and give me comments below if you have any questions, and I'll be happy to help you guys.